This is maybe the time, guys. You have 1 more minute. I'll put a stopper. Go get your coffee. This is, after all, Coffee with Joe. If you don't drink coffee, get some tea. If you don't drink tea, get some mate. Anyone from California? Hold on, everybody from California here? You do? Oh, mate. I see some mate from Argentina. So we have one more guy. Okay. We'll get started in 30 seconds. Everybody's here, so we'll get started. I'll put you guys all on mute, and I'll do a little introduction, and we'll pass on the microphone on to James Williams. And then we'll take some questions, and then we'll have another special guest coming in later on, and then we'll take another few questions, and we'll wrap it up, okay? So thank you all again. I'll put you guys on mute, and we'll get started. So basically, the purpose of this was really to, to see each other, to communicate. I think in these times, having a group of like-minded individuals and being able to share ideas is something very, very important. There is a lot of panic and fear-mongering going around, especially if you're glued to the media. And I think it's really important right now for leaders to, especially leaders, and I know everyone in this group is either somehow associated with tech non-tactical or tech non-security consulting, or you've done some course, or you're a colleague, and but it's basically people who have the mindset of the warrior, really, right? That's what we've been doing for many years. That's where training has taught us, and this is our time to perform, and that performance requires leadership. And in the times where everyone is, running like a loose chicken, going and buying, freaking out because there's no toilet paper, we have, and then also, by the way, I see this situation very difficult because the fact that everyone is indoors, and the fact that, what else can you do but glue yourself to CNN or to Fox or to whatever network you watch. That is really an atomic bomb when it comes to spreading out panic, okay? And so as leaders that are actually trained in these, in the field of preparedness and in the field of chaos, it is really, I think, our responsibility, that's the way I see it, to come out, shine, and actually fight that fear-mongering with calmness, with calmness. And those of you who've trained with us, our website for many years has been proactiveandprepared.com, and it's all about being prepared. It's all about that proactive approach to life. We came up, a lot of you carry these. This is the Breath of Life emergency escape mask. Unfortunately, we closed the production about 6 months ago. Damn, lost that one. But the mindset is that, right? We prepare for things that are not happening now. And I can tell you a very short story from my security presentations, which is an analogy and a story that I give a lot of times when I'm talking about panic and the danger of panic. So specifically when I'm talking about, and this is for protection purposes, for protectors, when we're doing this type of presentation, I always bring out a question to the group. And I tell them the following story. I said, listen, and right now I'm not even gonna remember the dates and all that, doesn't matter. I'll send you all the links later to the stories. But in the 2000s, we had a period in Israel where we had, actually before that, in 1995 to 1997, when I lived in Jerusalem, we used to have suicide bombing at least once a week, all right? We used to have a car bombing at least once every month or so. We had a ramming attack. So we were there was a period of time where this was our way of life. And one very famous incident or attack that happened in Jerusalem in those days was the Sbarro attack. It was a pizzeria and a terrorist wearing 4.5, here I'm gonna get mathematical for you number freaks. A terrorist wearing 4.5 kilograms of explosives, okay? And don't be, I'm sorry, excuse my French, a smart ass, don't start, if it was Semtex or explosives, all right? Regular TNT. Managed to go into an indoor place, detonated himself, and with him he took 15 people who died and injured over 80 people. This is 4.5 kilograms of explosive. My question to you is, and I love doing this when it's a law enforcement setting and we have EOD guys, because then they go crazy. If I go to history and I look at the most devastating suicide bombing, I can tell you the following. The bomber managed to kill over 900 people, okay? And the question is, how many kilos of explosive did he have on his body? Anyone want to give out a number? I'll save it to you. People start throwing out and doing math, and if, 4.5 kills such and such, how much do I need? To make it very short, the answer is one big fat zero, okay? And what happened there, this happened in, are you guys familiar with the Hajj in Islam, which is one of the festivities where they go and they pray, and they have to be, anyway, there's thousands, if not millions of, hundreds of thousands of people that go and do a ceremony together on the streets. And this incident happened on one of the bridges that cross over to Baghdad. And they had been hit on those days, this was 2005, they had been hit like 2 times that week by suicide bombers. And in that crowd of people praying, somebody saw a suspicious person. He immediately started yelling that there's a suicide bomber, when in fact there was no suicide bomber. And just because of the fear, right, there was a stampede and over 900 people died, okay? So fear is actually something that is extremely, extremely dangerous. Again, if you look at the media, that's all they're doing right now because it sells, I don't know, I guess more deodorant or something like that. But we have to come up, step up as leaders, and maintain people calm, share positivity, not fear, choose optimism, choose courage and not fear, okay? Fear is debilitating. That's why it's also important to have these meetings with like-minded individuals, okay? So be a leader, communicate with those around you, and spread calmness. So having done this little intro, I'm gonna pass it on to James Williams. I'm gonna do a very short intro of James. You can look him up online, but in a very short manner, James is has been for many, many years, one of my martial arts / personal preparedness mentors and teachers. I'm gonna say it this way, being an American, James has been going to Japan once a year or so to the most traditional Japanese dojos to show the Japanese how the original samurai used the sword, right? And maybe you'll deny it, James, you're humble, but he's, comes from a very interesting field of study from many different martial arts, and of course, the Japanese samurai in particular. And with that comes a whole philosophy. You can check him out at the System of Strategy. And of course, he also designs very specialized tools for some of our greatest warriors in the country and around the world. So without saying that, it's a pleasure, James, to have you here. I know you have a ton of things that you can share with us, because I know that in your presentations, having been to many of your seminars and courses, the physical part is important, but what comes up here and the way you understand and the mindset is critical. So without further ado, thank you very much. I'm going to mute myself and unmute you. There you go, James Williams.
Thanks, Joe. I'm on a little bit of a compressed time frame, people, because I have another podcast with Special Operations Forces report here in a little bit. So we can look in history and you can constantly see quotes of all based passion, fear is most accursed by William Shakespeare. Never take counsel of your fears. And what happens, of course, in situations like this is people don't train and they suppress their fears. So this is a life situation of the vast majorities of people. If you don't have a methodology to work on fear on a daily basis, and I'm talking deep internal fear, some of you are not even aware of, then when situations become serious, your tendency is to go into fear mode, sheeple mode, we call it. Works perfectly when I was kickboxing in the 70s. I lived in sheep country in Northern California, and you never saw a stray dog for more than a few hours. They were always shot. And they were shot because they would kill sheep, and they wouldn't kill them by attacking them. they would see sheep and not know what they are and start getting close, and the sheep would start to move away, and then the dog starts to move close, and before you know it, you had panic among the sheep, and they'd run into barbed wire fences, or there's some really steep ground there, or off a cliff or something, and get injured and killed, and it costs the sheep herders, the ranchers, money. And what happens with most people is exactly that phenomenon. What you want is information, and you cannot get that from the press. It's not possible, because they're not interested in information. Okay. Our press is enormously partisan on the one side of things, and that's doing enormous damage under a situation like this. You have to be able to see through those things. So, because I don't have a ton of time here, there's a few things to think about. And there's a great saying from a strategist, Sir Basil Liddell Hart, from the First World War, that's actually very oriental. Adaptation is the law of survival in war, as in life. So the ability to adapt to life is what survival comes, not the ability to control it and hold it in space and make it all safe or all this or all that. And when you think about that, what are you doing to help yourself become adaptable, right? What tools do you have? When I just traveled, as I told, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. I'm really bad with names, from Amsterdam. Miranda, okay, I can read it here. I can still read though. I just got back from Europe, and every single airline check in Europe, my bag got pulled. I would just finally go, hey, that's mine, right? Because of what I carry in my bag everywhere with me. Now, none of my items got pulled, but I had to explain, what's this? These are hemostatic agents. What's that? It's a tourniquet. What's this? It's a hemostat. What's this? It's my breath of life, Joe, which I carry all the time, everywhere as well. And I carry a wide range of things, because you never know when something's going to happen. And in my life, and talk to anybody that's been in serious situations for a long time, bad things always happen when you're not prepared, right? So a few years ago in California, I don't live there anymore, but a woman realized I was concealed carrying a pistol, and she was freaking out, right? She goes, what are you so afraid of? And I'm like, oh, what I'm afraid of is that something might happen and I won't be able to help, because I have the skill, the ability, the willingness, and the experience to do so. Said, what you're afraid of is you're just afraid of being afraid, right? And so I live in Montana, and I've got concealed carry in 41 states because I don't have a law enforcement badge anymore. But I carry every day. It's a pain in the butt, but it also allows me to be one of those people that may be able to save somebody, like the gentleman in the church in Texas a while back. And Europe is not removed from these things. They just have fewer firearms things, although they can't stop anybody from that. Knives are a huge deal now in Britain and other places, and the press hides that stuff. But it could be anything. You could be walking into an airport in Brussels, right? And get blown on your ass because overpressure from, a suicide bomber, and then get up and realize there's a whole lot of people that need tourniquets. And who's got tourniquets? I have tourniquets. Okay. I've got hemostatic agents. I've got chest seals. Explain to a cop, what is that? It's a chest seal. What's it for? Tension pneumothorax. He doesn't know what it is. I don't know why. If you're a cop, you wouldn't know what tension pneumothorax is. I said, so, being prepared is something that is a lifestyle. When this went down in the United States, I didn't have to go to the store for anything. I went for some of my comfort foods. I've lived for fairly long periods of time without comfort food, and you can do it. It's just not as much fun, but I didn't need anything. Didn't have to go to the gun shop. Didn't have to go to the grocery store. Didn't need toilet paper. Didn't need meds, right? And certainly didn't need swords, Miranda. I have a whole bunch of those. So if you're gonna do this, you have to prepare on a daily basis, a little bit at a time. It doesn't have to be a big deal all the time, but stuff happens. That's the world, right? And it always, especially people that haven't been around violence, things go from absolutely peaceful to absolute violence in a fraction of a second. You're all of a sudden in a different world. and your ability to immediately or within a compressed time frame adapt to that world with training, hopefully some experience, tools, knowledge is going to determine whether, one, you survive, but an awful lot of can you help other people. So from a classical samurai standpoint, which is really different than the vast majority of martial arts out there, the kanji bushi means warrior. And it fundamentally means to stop with the spear, to stop the spear, to protect and defend. And having former military and working with our most elite militaries to this day, designing tools for them, teaching them how to use them, etc. The job of the warrior is to protect other people. It's not about you. And if you put that framework in mind, you can only help if you have something to give, right? Education of some kind, tool, something. And you can only help if you have the willingness and the tools, etc., to give as well. And sheeple need calm people. If you're training for martial arts and you're getting partisan in all this, if you're blaming back and forth, and there's plenty of blame to go around, and you're listening to all, and you have an emotional reaction to this news story or that person, you need to take a look at yourself when you're training. What are you getting from this? So a couple concepts from Kodyu. Kodyu means the ancient methods or the ancient ways. And modern martial arts are completely different than this. So there's a couple concepts. One's called Mushin. Mushin means no thinking conscious mind, okay? And another one is called Mizu no Kokoro. Mizu is water, Kokoro is like your spirit mind. It's not quite soul, but it's more than mind, okay? And if you think about water, you know, if the surface of water is ruffled and you look into it, you can't get a clear view of yourself or your surroundings. If it's really smooth like a mirror, well, now you can accurately see things. And the goal of this is I'm going to solve a problem. And that's how we look at all of this, whether force is needed to apply that, whether it's a lethal solution or a smile or a helping hand. Okay? Every problem in the universe has inherent in the problem the solution. It's how the thing works, okay? Right? Because there's a method to all of this. We don't need to get into all that, but there's a perceivable method. So that means the clearer I can see the problem, the easier it is to see the solution. It's inherent in the problem. So that whole thing of taking a neutral stance in a sense, and a neutral mental framework, no opinions, no emotions, no what am I going to do, none of that. At this point, you clear your mind completely. Your job is to perceive, metaphorically, to hear or listen to the problem. And in that moment, boom. Systema has these attributes to it. And you see the relaxation, the timing of things, you know, staying in harmony with the moment, not getting involved in your own, you know, technique or getting anger going. In the 70s, I was an undefeated kickboxer. And I stopped everybody. I thought somehow they could find people I could beat. I don't know how that worked, but I was appreciative. But it wasn't because I wasn't afraid. I was afraid, but I was afraid of failure. If you physically hurt me, it was like throwing gasoline on the fire, because that brought me closer to my biggest fear, which is failure. Well, that makes you really successful in a tiny little part of life and doesn't work well at all for the vast majority of life. That's a real low ceiling. So 1979, 1980, when I'd kind of run through all of that, I started another type of study. And it's work, but it's worth it. And it teaches you how to work on your inner fears. And I'm not talking things like if I get out of a vehicle on the, you know, in the Mara and Serengeti, basically, same ecosystem in Kenya or Tanzania, and I'm going to walk away from a vehicle without a firearm, you need to understand the situation on the ground there. And by the way, for those of you who don't know things like this, the most important thing when you walk away from that vehicle is which direction is the wind blowing. Do not walk away from it if it's blowing from behind you, because all of those things out there will know you're there long before you see them. Okay. Now, that's a different type of fear, and I'm not sure we should even use that word for it. You recognize that there's danger, but we're also prepared psychologically, emotionally. That is how we survived. Okay. The anxiety fears that we have, which are the ones why people are panicking, are a whole different thing. So you have to get yourself training into a mindset where you recognize fears, you recognize danger, okay? But you can't have that in your mind. If you're getting ready to go into combat, you recognize this is dangerous. People get killed here. I know, I've buried a lot of them, okay? But I can't have that. Fear has to now be put aside, and you recognize it. You do your protocols like this one. We recognize there's dangers here. They're not nearly as great as are being put out, okay? But there are dangers here. So you do your protocols, right? Whatever they happen to be, and whether it's social distancing, interesting, 6 feet, 1 step, 1 cut, the samurai distance, okay? You clean your hands regularly. You do certain things, right? Maybe avoid large groups for this point in time, okay? But not by carrying the fear around with you all of the time, okay? Do your protocols without carrying the fear. Stay calm, help other people to stay calm. And your demeanor is going to mean a lot when you talk to them, joke here and there, not inappropriately, but enough to get some people to cycle down a little bit. You know, it's, and another thing that is important, and Sistema really pushes this as well, and I don't know why more martial arts, especially ones that are quote unquote internal, but your posture makes a huge impact on your frame of mind, your mental state, and not rigidly, emotionally standing up straight. You need to open your heart. So when I'm doing that right now, you can see a little, my shoulders aren't actually moving at all. There's nothing going backwards. You're literally opening your heart, which in the Hindu is the Anahata chakra, right? And opening your heart makes you vulnerable, so it takes courage, right? But it also makes you sensitive. Sensitivity is information. We're not taking sensitive, I'm going to cry because somebody took my ice cream, okay? So that posture also projects to other people, and it's not an aggressive posture. Aggression is fear-based. Just like I said, in the 70s, all that was fear-based, okay? Fear of failure, whatever. So those things to practice on a daily basis are really important. And then, since I have to sign off here pretty quick, think about if you're preparing, and this is a daily basis thing, what do you need to survive? You need water first. You need food. You need tools to protect it, okay? You need meds, and a lot of those things that will help are fairly easy to get. And these things are easy to come by in first world countries. You can have them on hand. Now, which particular those things and how you do it? When I was in California, I stored canned food because water is a problem. I didn't want to store pastas or rice that I had to put water in with because I'm not going to have a lot of water. Here, I've got a creek 50 meters behind the house, plenty of snow to melt. Water's not a problem. Okay? So think about the things that you actually need and then what your family needs, and plan and pick those things up as a part of your daily routine here and there, weekly routine. Joe, I'm going to have to sign off here. I probably talked more than enough anyway, so I'm going to go on and talk for another hour or more. I can't hear you, so put yourself off mute.
Sorry about that. So
there we go. Yet problem.
We have a few more minutes. If you want to keep going a few more minutes, I know that Bram is having some technical difficulties, so you can be with us a few more minutes. That'll be great.
Well, I'll wait for these guys to call me. So hang on a second. I'll just turn this on, and then they can contact me. And at that point, I'll go.
Okay.
You know, the fundamental. Okay, they're connecting. So the fundamentals are work on your fears and deep fears, recognize them. They don't all go away, but at least recognize what they are. Okay. And find a practice that actually is benefiting you. If you have a huge emotional reaction to listening to a piece of news or an individual person, especially politicians, look at yourself. Don't look at them. How come I'm reacting like that? That's a fear base. But I'm gonna have to check out now, Joe. Everybody,
Okay, James.
nice chatting with you. Maybe we'll be able to do this again. Take care.
Thank you, James. Be safe, and we'll be in touch. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, guys. So we're actually waiting now for Bram Frank to join us. Hopefully, he'll be able to. Fantastic. In the meantime. All right, guys. So basically, you heard James. The story is always the same, right? This is a matter of ongoing state of mind. It's really the mindset which is really important here. And on that note, I'll share with you, now that we all have a lot of time at home, a really good book. I don't know if you guys know it, if you have read it, if you have not read it, but this is basically a book called Unbeatable Mind. Okay. It's written by Mark Devine, who's a former Navy SEAL commander. And it's all about your mindset. So everything we're talking about now, this is something that Mark actually puts into wording in a very, very interesting way. Again, I think it's something critical right now for all of us to master and to spread out to the world, because it's really needed. One more thing that is very useful in today's day and age. So most of you have trained with me, System or any type of martial arts class that I give. You know that breathing for us is extremely important. And I think with all the tension that we have right now going around, it's something that we can also practice, and we can also teach. I know that Vlad has been doing online classes for his kids. I'll share his information in a little bit. And there's a lot of resources out there, but breathing is critical. It is something that manages and has the ability to affect our parasympathetic system, which actually controls the fear, fight, flight, etc. So once you start getting all tensed up and your shoulders go up, it's very useful to just inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. I'll share with you one very simple exercise that you can practice anywhere. It's called 5-5-5-5. So basically what you do is you inhale through your nose and you count 5. So hold it, count 5, and then exhale, and then hold it. Okay, and you can do it 5. You can start actually with 2, go up to 3, 4, 5. Do like a pyramid. Okay, bring it up to 8, 9, 10 if you can, and then bring it back down to 1. You can do it standing. You can do it laying down on the ground. You can do it while you take a walk. Okay, you want to fill your lungs with a lot of air, and it's really, really good. We have many other breathing exercises. Perhaps in the next call we can share some of that as well. But I find that to be very, very important with what's happening. People are freaking out, and that's one very easy way to relax. Okay, so I'm going to try to get Bram back into the call. Bram, can you hear me? What's your question? From what you're saying, I'll tell you this. Look, I think that Garbers, okay. Basically here, I wouldn't worry so much about the new gun owners. They're basically being proactive. They're a little bit late into the game, but they're trying to be proactive. They understand that, you know, if the panic continues down the road, we may have situations that, you know, all of our teachers and older teachers warned us against many, many years ago, right? When the shit hits the fan, you know, people start doing crazy things, and some people may go and the minute they can't get their groceries at the store because there's no more food or what have you, and they didn't have anything prepared, and they live in the bad areas of town, well, guess where they're going to go and do shopping? They're going to go to the nicer areas, the nicer neighborhoods, and that's always a possibility. It's a possibility that you don't have to freak out, in my opinion, at this point in time, but you have to be prepared. So if you're not carrying a firearm today, but you have one, that's half of the problem, right? Now, another question is, start running those scenarios and you know, before you even get to the gun, start thinking what can happen, what can be the sequence of events that will lead to that, and what is your response going to be, right? Remember, the more we start thinking about all these situations in advance, then we can think about it. We have the luxury of time. So in your case, maybe I'm not sure exactly where you live, etc., but it may be as easy as saying, okay, how do I secure my perimeter? How do I set a few, tiers around my home, right? Where how do I set some type of alarm and alert mechanism, where if someone unauthorized crosses a certain line, I know about it. And then from there, you can come up with a whole bunch of different responses to that, going from having a speaker and saying, hey, get out of here, the cops are on their way, to, I don't know, throwing a smoke grenade or a flashbang. Don't share this with anyone. And then the last minute, you have also the lethal option if it's something that if it's a problem that requires that. But going back on what James mentioned, and going back to the concept of mizo no kokoro, which basically means don't allow, quiet down that monkey mind. Be proactive and master your feelings, and try to calm down using breathing and everything we talked about to really understand what is the situation, not be overwhelmed. And a lot of times, by being able to see the situation without all the stuff that gets into our mind, which is emotions, anger, fear, all these things, you're actually able to see what the inherent solution is to the problem. So you have to understand what the problem is, and if you do it in a calm way, you will come up with the solution. Don't worry too much about every time we have a crisis here, guns go up and down. Same thing with the market, by the way. And the one, I don't want to say positive, but one thing that again, you have to be proactive is understanding how fear cycles work, and understanding that once it gets to the supermarket and it also gets to the financial sectors, you know what, it's tough if you have a few equities there that you spend some of your savings in. But at the same time, if you understand that historically it goes down and then it goes up, it depends on what the news is on the same day. It may go down, but eventually we'll be out of here. The market will come back up. People will go back out to the street, and we'll have some parties, and we'll be able to hug our parents and so on and so forth. So specifically in the field of the financial sectors, if you understand those trends, you can actually even take advantage of a few of those situations. When the market goes down and everything is as cheap as it gets, if you have a little extra cash, that's the time to go in and make some investments. But anyway, I diverted here completely. Bram, are you able to join us now?
Right.
Loud and clear.
I apologize to all of you. I'm a dinosaur. I couldn't make anything work.
No worries. We're talking about adaptation, flexibility, and mindset of calmness and not freaking out, even with the technology in these interesting times. So no worries. We're glad you're with us.
Yeah, I just went through that anxiety because everything you gave me kept coming up to the same screen. You can get here, but you can't talk to Joe. And when I finally got it, even more frustration. I'm sitting here going, I can see all of you. I can't hear any of you. So, but that's sort of like what's going on in today's world. We can't actually see or feel it because it's out there, and they want us not to panic. And of course, panic is what we do martial arts to avert, because panic kills martial arts, but panic kills life. And like I said, for even me right now, for a couple minutes, I was panicking because I couldn't get on here. But I sit here, and you and I talked about, and I cracked a joke about panic would be the best thing. Let everybody freaking panic and throw everything. But I am surprised at the media pandemic, because I don't care about how infectious this disease is. That's fear. We go to whole bunches of things where, like tuberculosis. You guys have to pardon me. I'm cancering. I'm going to talk in a circle a little bit. Tuberculosis, 1.5 million people die every year. There's 1.8 billion people who are infected with it, and it's antibiotic resistant. Nobody's in panic mode. We still have typhoid, cholera, SARS, MERS, regular flu. We lose hundreds of thousands of people. We don't panic. All of this, stay home and don't panic is making people panic because they can't do anything. Nothing they do works. And when they look at other statistics, people freak out and go, the other stuff, we didn't panic about it before. So all this media stuff must be real because people are panicking. What Vlad was saying, about take a breath, lots of times this really is take a breath. Part of it too, the genie's out of the bottle. The barn door has been opened. Shutting it's not going to do anything. And, panic, there's some things we can't control. We really can't. So yeah, I'm sitting here in the house playing with the cat and cutting on my dummy because I don't know what else to do. But yeah, that's my little bit for so far.
Very good. So what type, if we draw from your training, and you have extensive knife training, you've been training also all over the world, a lot of special forces, police officers, and also civilians. And I'm sure you also talk about mindset, about, we talked with the previous speaker, with James, we were talking about the Japanese concept of mizo no kokoro, which is having your mind clear, so that you can clear from emotions and from fear, from anxiety and all that, so that you can see the problem and address it. So what kind of tools can you give us if you draw from your training, so that, so we can cope better with these situations of stress?
Well, I agree with James, the whole idea of mushin and no mind, which people mix up, is just, not letting your emotions get to it, which again, I call panic. I try to, Remy used to tell me, Remy Presas, if you guys don't know, I was with Remy for 21 years, the founder of Modern Race. He used to tell me, if I can't apply martial arts to life, what's the point of doing martial arts? I always think it's so that you're already there. When a situation comes up, you can look at it and go, I will not panic because I recognize that situation. I understand where I'm at. That's what I try to, obviously when I teach the teams, those guys are on, as you know, Joe, they're under duress right then and there. No matter what I tell people, your heart's going to pump, you're going to get tunnel vision, you're going to get tachycyclia, time distortion, you're going to lose some motor skills, but you have to learn to sort of walk through it. And that's why I keep things very simple. So when some people come with complex stuff, I tell people, what's the simplest equation you can make to make the day go by or make the event go by? Not what are the thousands of options you have. What are the, what's the simplest option you have? So that's what I teach them. That's what I try to do when things get out of hand. What's the smallest thing I can concentrate on? Not what's the big picture. What's the small thing? If I can handle that small thing, I can get through all this. And especially because I deal with sharp tools, my thing is, as you know, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, the Black Knight. Can I shut down the tool itself in your hand? That's really simple. It's really small. In here, sitting at home dealing with the virus, all I can control is who do I get exposed to, who do I expose, and what can I do to help others take a breath and not go crazy in their things. So I just tell people, like I said, small. I try to breathe and not panic. And again, I look at what's the smallest thing. I know that probably that's too simplistic, but that's how I do it.
That's interesting. I was telling the guys that I was watching a webinar with Mark Devine from the Unbeatable Mind and from SEALFIT Academy a few days ago, and I just pulled up the notes here while you were talking. He actually, did a lot of analogies with the world of combat, and he said, listen, shoot, move, and communicate, right? So when something happens, something's coming your way, in this case, all this fear, same thing, right? Shoot, move, and communicate. So saying align your team, in other words, pull together with people who are the same type of mindset, get off the X. Oh God, my deer in the headlights, what do we do? That's very common. So get off that. And you were saying that doubt is eliminated by action. So do something, and that's exactly what you were talking about. Take a little task, small task, just do something, right? What can you do now? You can do, everyone can do something right now, even if that's going and watering your plants or trimming your, your hair with, I don't know, whatever. And then going and acquire the next target, so.
Yeah, no, that's it. But that's why I tell people, if you do something small and you accomplish it, and encouraged to do something else. If you try to do 52 things or the big stuff and you can't make the big thing happen, then you've already given yourself self-doubt, which is going to lead to panic and go, why would I do that? Because you couldn't make it work. Little steps. My mom used to tell me, and you got to meet my mom. My mom, as a doctor, used to look at me and go, just survive the day. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about, far in the future. Just do something small each day, a small step. And that's when I began to understand that saying, just take small steps. One step. That's all you got to do. It's like in therapy. A lot of you guys may not know, I popped a couple ribs out, which I haven't done for a while. Every motion makes me hurt. And the doctor said, just take it slow. I've had to cut myself way back. What can I do? One little thing. So believe it or not, sitting here, that's an accomplishment right now. With my ribs. Someone said, what's that? I said, well, if I can do one thing, can I do that 3-minute video clip I did today? Can I write a small part of the article? Feed the cat. So yeah, small stuff. Make yourself, and that's also getting offline and all that, what they were talking about too.
Yeah. Another cool thing he was talking about, we all know the OODA loop, right? Observe, orient, decide, and act. So he gave something that they use in the teams, and I didn't write down the acronym, but it's basically pause, breathe, think, and act. And again, it's a way or a mechanism to get yourself from being frozen, right? And then he also talked about the importance of breath, positive mental state, imagery, right? Picture yourself out of the situation, and then micro task. And wherever there's doubt again, replace it by action.
Yeah,
anyway,
micro
Bram,
task, of course.
At this point, I'd like to open up the microphone. If anyone wants to ask Bram anything or share something, this is your time. We're on the 3:33 minutes, so I have a few more minutes. Hopefully Bram does too, but maybe we can open this up to take a few questions. So anyone, just unmute yourself and ask.
If you like playing, if someone say, the reason I have a cutting dummy is sometimes I actually need to do something. I actually had to tell people not to cut their training dummies. I watch people going, oh my God, I cut up my dummy. And I'm like, why would you do that? So anyways, I made a PVC dummy. So as you say, Joe, the way I get some of it out is sometimes I actually need to see things cut. I need to move through. So I made myself a cutting dummy that I play with. And a lot of you guys, because you all train, sometimes hitting dummies, hitting pads, work something out, because we all have a physical need to actually do something, accomplish something. So recently I've been working out new ways of application of actual cutting. You guys know I got new knives coming out, so I'm sitting here doing engineering and doing whatever. And part of it is, new stuff each day, little stuff.
I'll share with everyone later the link to Bram's online training as well. So you'll find a lot more information there.
I just want to say hello to Bram, and you looks good.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I know you were experiencing some physical challenges, so you look very good.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm glad you're feeling better, and you go step by step.
Yeah, it's been different. It's made me appreciate things. Some of you may know I had to hospice 3 different people in my life. And then daughter number 2 also got very sick, and, Christian, but I think as many of us warriors found out, we can't beat health, life. We can only take it for what it is. So I'm very appreciative that all of you were there. Thank you, Vlad, for saying I look good. So a couple of guys wrote to me and said, oh my God, you look all beat up, because I'm tired.
No, you're not. You look very good.
Thank you.
Graham, I just want to say congratulations on the whole new line. I've been following it on Facebook. It's a really big line to roll out at one time, and I look forward to, when this is over, running into you at Levy's again so we could have shawarma.
Oh, you got it. That'd be great. Actually, you see, I go there with Joe, and I've been taking some of my students there because it's, I like being there. But I've been trying with the knives. That's part of my little bit each day, and it's been building up. I was just told, because the factory reopened, that the Sister Christian, my reverse Tonto Dow with that little bit of curve to it, is actually finished. They're going to ship it. The Desan Guts are going to follow. Then my Kopish, like the old Egyptian style blade.
Right.
Probably by the beginning of June, middle of June, I'll actually have all those new knives here. And I don't think and John, I'm always making new, different designs. People go, why don't you have more? I don't think they understand, I'm a little guy, and it takes me a while to design them, make the model, make the prototype, and then get to a production prototype to okay it before I start to go. But yeah, I'm trying. If you go up to my website, you'll see all the new blade designs, because I want people, because blade designs are like, guns, or like soap. It's really personal. So for me, the important part is the ramp back and the handle. The ergonomics are set, and I'll let everyone who has their own preference pick whatever blade they want. And that stuff I'm doing with the Desan Guts, because San Guts are from the Philippines. There's no karambits there, which will work in forward or reverse grip. Some of you've probably seen Doug Mercaida fell in love with them, and I've been helping Doug with his Talon and him and Bastion with the Mako. So when I get the Desan Gut out, which is named after Dessa Ramos, she's actually used a fixed blade with her husband, who's the former commander of the German Ranger Battalion. They've been using it in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and Syria. And Odessa actually has 2 teams of Kurdish women. That's their main tool to go after ISIS. So it's getting an awful lot of combat experience out there, so I know the design works.
Fantastic. Guys, I'm going to start wrapping this things up. So thank you all again for being here. Bram, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. And we also appreciate James' input. And guys, again, this is all about, staying together. Let's be leaders. You can be leaders, with your families, with the friends, with the employees, with the neighbors, with the community in general, right? Let's keep the morale high, keep the body strong. And don't forget that this too shall pass. Okay, so hopefully we'll be doing more of these at least once a week, every time with distinguished guests. And I'll be happy to receive any type of suggestions, both technical and content-wise, for the next one. And please do share the link, and hopefully we can get a nice group of people thinking along these lines and spreading out positivity. All right, so guys, thank you very much. Be well. All the best.
Thank you, guys.
And
Thanks.
take
Be
care.
safe.